For as long as there have been weapons, there has always been armor to counter those weapons, and this also applies to helmets, with fully enclosed helmets almost being the norm before the invention of firearms, which actually made armor redundant for several centuries. But with the invention of new materials like kevlar in the 20th century, the pendulum has begun to swing once more. But many current examples of full-face ballistic protection just don't seem to be very useful for anything other than point-blank range. But it would seem that the way forward has come from one of the most unlikeliest of places, in the form of the Devtac Ronin. The Devtac Ronin are a series of airsoft and ballistic helmets made by the company Devtac, which is based in Yokohama, Japan. Founded in April 2011 by Wesley Shibata, Devtac was formed as a response to the exceptionally poor quality of recreational face protection that was available at the time, which had a tendency of either being uncomfortable, poorly ventilated, which resulted in lens fogging, or wasn't very modular. As the mask became more popular, it became abundantly clear that many of the issues faced by paintballers and airsofters were also reflected when it came to full-face ballistic protection, prompting an expansion of Devtac's operations into both law enforcement and military products, with a considerable degree of success, both from buyers in the security and military industries, attention from the media, and even its inclusion in video games, probably due to its sci-fi futuristic look. But let's get to the actual review, shall we? Over here I have one of only 3 Devtac Ronin carbon fiber helmets ever made. The helmet itself is fully enclosed and offers 360-degree protection to whichever threat it is currently designed for. It is also important to note that barring differences in materials, the design of the recreational and ballistic Devtac Ronins are completely identical. And thus, while I may not be shooting this helmet in this review, my comments on the ergonomics and design of this helmet would be applicable to almost every Ronin you may encounter. On the left side, you can actually see the serial number of this particular helmet, which is Ronin 009. Now this is because this was the 9th Ronin ever ordered back in 2012, when the Ronin was still just an airsoft face mask. The client, who's based in Hong Kong and a good friend of mine, had specified that his mask be made of carbon fiber, in exchange for a set of PVS 14s for Wesley to make the NVG mount out of. However, due to the difficulties working with carbon fiber, production ended up taking about 18 months when it was finally delivered in 2014. By then, Devtac had started making full helmet versions of the Ronin, and so Wesley went and sent an upgrade set containing the back half over to Hong Kong to complete the helmet to the one you see today. One key aspect of the Ronin helmet is its modularity, with every single removable component being readily interchangeable with any other Ronin helmet. All the removable plates use the same 4mm hex key nuts and bolts, which greatly simplifies the logistics of tailoring your helmet to your specific needs. This means that in theory I could attach ballistic plates to my carbon fiber helmet, giving me a degree of ballistic protection that I otherwise would not be able to have. That being said, I really don't recommend you do that. If you really want to protect your brain case, just get the bloody Kevlar helmet, okay? This additional modularity also gives you access to a variety of accessories, such as a single piece mandible, extra fans, an NVG mount, or even more cosmetic accessories like this ridiculous mohawk over here. Not all the plates are screwed on though. For example, the cheek plates are held onto the helmet through the use of high-strength neodymium magnets, which allows them to be quickly removed to allow for more accurate weapons manipulation. Opening the helmet up, we can go and see that the inside of the Ronin is just as modular as it is on the outside, with a variety of cushioning options to make the helmet as breathable or comfortable as you like. As you can see here, I've opted to go for the minimalist route, using only the forehead insert to cover the batteries for the fans. The rear of the helmet is pretty much a similar affair. The helmet itself is made of 2 halves, connected through the top by a hook and with high-strength neodymium magnets on the side. Later versions of the helmet do have 2 extra locking pins on the side for extra security, but even without them, the magnets do their job, as they do take a considerable amount of force to pull apart. In terms of retention, the Ronin features both a head strap and a chin strap, both of which are attached to the back half of the helmet. The chin strap that came with the helmet was pretty basic, and the buckles that held it together were pretty flimsy, so I went and swapped them out with some chin straps and buckles of my own, which are a lot more comfortable and sturdy. The head strap's purpose is basically to provide greater stability and prevent helmet wobble. However, I've often found this to be a lot more trouble than it's actually worth. Because in order to wear the helmet with the head strap, I would first have to wear the rear part of the helmet first, and then assemble the helmet on my head, which is both complex and very time consuming compared to just putting the whole helmet on and just putting on the chin strap. This is also made worse by the fact that you can't actually adjust the head strap on the fly. To adjust it, you have to take off the helmet and disassemble it, then manually thread the strap through the adjustment holes to your desired head width. As you expect, this is both inconvenient and time consuming, and it pales in comparison to more commercially available helmet retention systems out there. Visibility is another thing the Devtac Ronin does differently. Instead of situating a lens far away from the face and making a lens very large like the revision over here, the Ronin instead shrunk the size of the eye lenses, giving greater ballistic protection to the overall face, but also brought the eye lenses closer to the user, maintaining that same field of view. In practice, this philosophy largely pans out, with a very minimal loss in field of view, particularly around about the y-axis. The vision between your eyes is actually naturally overcome by your binocular vision. Therefore, loss of any sort of transparent space doesn't affect you at all. As mentioned previously, this tighter facial profile allows for the effective use of small arms, which is unprecedented when it comes to ballistic face protection. Simple things like maintaining a cheek weld or aiming down the sights with as little effort is now possible with this helmet. Even me, I straight up went and used my WE-L85 with this helmet, mainly because it's the least ergonomic weapon out there, and it still was actually doable. Naturally, this has prompted concerns about the possibility of backface deformation, especially for a helmet with such a tight profile. However, testing has shown that backface deformation on the Devtac Ronin ballistic helmets falls well within safe standards. At least up until NIJ Level IIIA, that is. One of the most notable aspects of this helmet is its unique fan system, designed specifically to reduce and even eliminate fogging on the eye lenses. Each removable lens frame is outfitted with a small microjet fan, which draws clean air from the outside and then circulates it within the lens itself. It is also important to note that the microjet fans are situated at an angle, so they at no point ever blow air directly onto your eyeball. This results in the Ronin working astoundingly well at removing fog, as you can see right here. The only downside is the rather noisy nature of these fans, which can reduce situational awareness. Using the fans is a relatively simple affair. The speed of the fans is controlled by an adjustable dial on the right side of the helmet, whilst the direction of the fans is controlled by a small switch just above the dial. Adjusting the fans while wearing the helmet takes a little bit of getting used to in order to prepare for the muscle memory. However, I don't actually see any simpler way this could have actually been done, so there's nothing to really complain about here. As mentioned previously, I chose to playtest my Ronin using my WE-L85A2 gas blowback rifle, on account that it is the least ergonomic airsoft gun I own, and if it can work well with this, it can work well with anything. Modifications to the rifle itself were minimal, and involved removing the cheek rest and installing a slight riser on my replica aim point so that I can actually look down the sights. The Ronin helmet itself performed admirably in game. I was able to clearly see and effectively engage other players, and the lens fans did a fantastic job of keeping the fog out of my eyes, despite it being over 30 degrees Celsius and I was dealing with Hong Kong's notorious humidity. However, the biggest issue I did experience was the buildup of heat. Now, living and playing in a tropical environment, heat is paramount, and with an enclosed helmet, it's going to build up. And after around half an hour and 30 plus degrees Celsius, things got pretty unbearable in there, and I was forced to take frequent breaks afterwards. For this, I consider it almost mandatory to get the extra fans for your Ronin if you live in a place with a warmer climate. So, is this it? Have we reached peak helmet with the Ronin here? Are our battlefields of the future going to be filled with thousands of creepy bug-eyed soldiers laying waste to their enemies like some dark dystopian sci-fi film? Well, not quite yet. And I'll tell you why, as in my opinion they focus around three main factors that are preventing the wide adoption of something like the Ronin. They revolve mainly around the concepts of complexity, and by extension price, communications, and, most crucially, CBRN. So let's start with complexity. As I've mentioned previously, the Ronin is made of two halves, and while its head strap mounting method may help with facial protection from ballistic weapons by keeping the front of the helmet off the face, it remains to be seen whether this helmet can keep its integrity under massive blunt force trauma or explosions. This also carries on to cost. The more parts there are in a helmet, the more it's going to cost to build and assemble those parts, and this is reflected in the relatively steep price of the Ronin for consumers. As for the subject of communications, the Ronin is currently not compatible with any form of externally worn military headsets. This greatly reduces the number of situations the Ronin can be deployed in, especially with the increasingly widespread adoption of electronic hearing protection in militaries around the world. This will likely require the development of some kind of integrated proprietary communication system, which may or may not be developed sometime in the future. As for the subject of CBRN, Devtac recently revealed the development of the Ronin CS, a variation of the Ronin helmet that is compatible with CS gas masks to be used in law enforcement. And whilst no, you will not be able to walk through a field of sarin nerve gas with this on, this is still a fantastic step in the right direction, and I'm really excited to see where they go next. In the end, as an airsoft helmet, the Devtac Ronin is basically second to none. But as a ballistic helmet, even with its few shortcomings, it still far outstrips its contemporaries when it comes to balancing practicality with protection. And this is the most crucial thing about it. Devtac largely is still a young company, and who knows what they're going to do next, as they're only just getting started. In the end, I hope you enjoyed this review and found it as informative as I did making it. For the viewers that still want to see this ballistically tested, I'll go and link you up to Demolition Ranch's channel, where he literally shoots the shit out of his. As for the rest of you, thank you for getting this far, and like and subscribe if you want some more. And as always, have a nice day.